Hello and welcome to Movie Film Studios, the only podcast that takes you inside the minds of two film studio executives as we unravel and then re-ravel the best that Hollywood has to offer. My name is Isaac.
And I'm AJ.
Alright, so this week the feature film that we looked at was...
The Dark Tower, the Stephen King novel or series of books,
yep.
Adaptation, which we watched.
With Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey.
That's correct.
A few others.
And some others. So other discount actors, many discount actors in this film. But before we do that, we need to start off what we do. Let me start it again. Before we do that, we need to do what we do every week and do Trailer Watch.
I'm actually going to interrupt as well. And before we do that, last week, Movie Film Studios put out our first original, Adventure Children.
That's right.
I would like to just jump in and just ask, how did we go? How did Adventure Children go this week?
Brilliantly well. We opened in, I think, about 20 theaters in Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan, yep.
Sellout.
Absolute sellout. Of course, those theaters have like 5 seats each, right?
Yeah, but they sold out.
They did sell out.
They sold out. And the reviews, magnificent. I can't read most of the reviews because I can't understand the language they speak in Uzbekistan.
Uzbeki? That's really just showing our international ignorance there.
Yeah, but I saw stars. There were like stars attached.
A few crescent moons as well for some strange reason. I don't know how that figures into the review system.
Yeah, it was both. It was like we got one publication. I think it was like the Daily Uzbeki gave us 3 moons and 2.5 stars. And together they make 5 objects.
Yes, I'm not...
5.5 objects.
I'm not sure if the crescent moons are half stars or negative stars. I don't really understand.
Look, I'm counting it as a win.
It got a release. International box office takings then actually has numbers. Domestic box office takings, not so much.
Not great, but I mean, look, I think it's on its way. Not that I think. I know it's on its way to becoming a cult hit.
I mean, that's exactly... Some of the best films were not necessarily well received initially.
Blade Runner,
exactly.
No one liked that.
And so, I mean, we just have to give it time to get picked up and go...
Particularly when we do the director's cut.
Oh, absolutely.
Or rather, the executive producer's cut. Because we don't really care what the director came out with in terms of their vision for Adventure Children. It's going to be our cut that'll come out about 15 years from now.
Yeah.
And will be the definitive version.
We've been getting a few complaints. The few people who've managed to pick up a bootleg copy of Adventure Children were saying that we did say we were going to get time travel and get a young Kate Winslet in the main role.
Yep.
And look, the time travel technology fell through. We are aware of that.
Yep.
I believe that the people we cast were close enough. I mean, it kind of looks a little bit like a young Kate Winslet. Whether that person can or cannot act well is irrelevant.
And
we got as close to the people that we said we were going to cast.
Yep.
Obviously, LeBron James pulled out last minute. That was not our fault.
No.
We did not realize it was NBA playoff season. I'm sorry about...
He pulled a hamstring.
Yeah, and then, Judi Dench, absolutely lovely in the role. Liam Neeson, phenomenal to work with. Michael Fassbender, a consummate professional.
Yep.
They were able to play their roles because we cast them in the appropriate time and age.
Yeah.
The kids that we were going to cast...
who did we have? We had Dominic
Monaghan and
Billy
Boyd.
They were okay.
They were okay. They did complain a lot that their conjoined twin suit was very hot.
Yeah.
It was a lot more duct tape than they were expecting.
This is true.
We do, again, they did sign up.
I think they were mostly kind of miffed by the fact that we asked them to method act as well. So we didn't allow them to get out of that costume once we'd finished shooting each day. So they were forced to be... And look, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. I think that the film that we put out there, really, you get that sense that they're living the life of a conjoined twin. And I don't think we would have gotten that performance out of them
if we'd allowed them to exist separately. Yeah. So, I mean, they are still doing it. They did sort of grow slightly accustomed to it.
Yeah.
That's their choice. From whatever happens from here on out, post-release, that is their choice as how they live their lives, and that's fine.
And I think the Academy will reward us for that as well.
Yes, it's the Uzbeki Film Academy Awards.
That's right, yeah. The Moscas.
That's horrible, but also kind of fantastic. All right, so now let's get to this week in trailers.
This week in trailers, yep. So obviously, big week for trailers.
It has been, the
week.
biggest of weeks with Star Wars: The Last Jedi's. They had a teaser, I believe, up until now, but like
this is the first full strength, full power.
Yeah, the Force has awoken.
That's right,
and she is the last. And let's actually leave that till last because I think.
Yeah, let's leave that to last.
We also watched the Justice League has put out its third trailer, maybe?
I think this is like the final trailer.
So teaser trailer, then first trailer, then second trailer.
Because it's out soon.
I couldn't tell you.
It feels like it's been coming out soon for years.
I mean, this is the thing. It's like, we're going to do the Justice League. Oh, but first we have to do Batman, and then we have to do Superman, and then we have to do Wonder Woman, and then we have to do Batman versus Superman.
Yep. And then we forgot to do the Flash and every other one.
So it has been a long time coming. I know I am alone here in this film studio headquarters. I thought not the teaser trailer, the first trailer they put out kind of looked fun. It kind of looked a little bit interesting. They were doing things with characters I didn't think. I thought the action sequences kind of looked all right.
Yep.
I was kind of going, this film has a little bit of hope. DC does not have a great track record. I kind of thought, maybe they'll do something good. This second trailer just completely sinks any hope that I had. It is just full of... You can tell the entire thing's shot on a green screen.
Yep.
It's full of red and purple misty backgrounds.
Yeah.
It's got cybernetic butterfly bad guys.
Yeah.
It has just cheesy one-liners and all action and a very puffy-looking Ben Stiller. Not Ben Stiller. It would be better if they got Ben Stiller to play Batman than Ben Affleck, but...
It's the kind of trailer where you wonder why they bothered casting real actors in it.
Yeah.
Because it's so fake. There's nothing... I mean, it's Zack Snyder's hyper-stylized art direction that he's renowned for, and I guess some people like it, but... Sure. Why bother cast? Just do the whole thing in CG. There's no real reason to have real actors in there anymore because it's literally just them in a costume. They're not even wearing real capes for the most part because the capes are all CG'd in.
Some of them haven't even bothered to shave off their mustaches. Look, I don't know. I don't want to complain about it. I think it's going to be a bad film.
I know it's going to be a bad film.
It's going to get a butt ton of money, and that's really all that they're after.
Yeah. It's a weird... It's that everyone has wanted a Justice League film for many years, and it's been teased and put into the director of Mad Max at one point was attached to
George Miller.
George Miller was attached to a Justice League project that was going to go ahead in the early to mid 2000s, and then got canned for various reasons. So it's a long time coming, but this is not going to be the film you want to see these characters in. No, but look, I don't think DC has the foundation. I mean, they did a great job with Wonder Woman. I think it was a better than average film. I don't think it's as fantastic as people keep saying that it is. I think there's some glaring issues, but it feels like what Marvel did for Captain America, which was a very mediocre, a sort of slightly above average superhero film. They finally got a footing in with Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman for them is the best film by far in the DC cinematic universe. Captain America is like maybe fifth. So like to get to that sort of standard that Marvel has been setting for years, I don't think DC is going to reach. And I think there's going to be a point there where the entire superhero genre falls apart before they can get there. So we've had conversations in the past, not on the podcast, talking about film genres of the past and how they have somewhere around like a 15 to 20 year life cycle. You have film noir of the 20s and 30s and 40s. You have westerns of the late 50s, 60s and early 70s. There's the sort of generic American action hero, your Schwarzenegger, Stallones. They were very popular through the 80s and 90s. And we're in the superhero genre. It's been running probably since around 2000, early 2000s with X-Men. You could probably push it a little bit earlier than that with some of the other films, but it's been going for probably around sort of 16, 17 years. Yeah, give or take.
And there's certain road marks along the way that you can see the rise and fall of the genre. Logan marked a point there where they'd taken a very different tact to the superhero film genre, where it's a bit of like a retrospective. It's taking the characters from that genre and putting them in a old and sort of grizzled context. Unforgiven did it for westerns. There's a few other examples I know for...
Deadpool did it as well.
Yeah, Deadpool was another road marker where there's a very tongue-in-cheek. It's almost a parody of its own genre while sitting well. Yeah. If you want to look at True Lies was a great example of what they did that for the American sort of action hero genre, where Schwarzenegger's playing... it is very much an action film, but it's very sort of tongue-in-cheek and comedic.
Yes. And the argument is as well that once a genre reaches a point where it branches off into new areas and reinvents itself, it's very hard to go back to just an ordinary superhero.
Exactly.
Film.
You just get very average run of the mill. So like it is now branching off. It is reinventing itself. It's having to tread new ground to maintain relevance. So that kind of almost earmarks the end of an era in a way. It almost goes, here is the point where we're sort of on the downhill slide, where at some point in the not too distant future, let's say give it 5 years, superhero films are not going to be the stock standard summer and Christmas blockbustery kind of films. Yep. It's going to be some other genre, whatever that happens to be. We don't know, but I'm kind of looking forward to what the next phase will be. I'm kind of tired of the same superhero films over and over again. We did actually watch a trailer this week, and we probably weren't going to talk about it, but it was called, The New Mutants, or something along those lines?
Yes, which is a film in the X-Men universe, so it's not a kind of a pseudo-sequel to the last X-Men film.
Yeah, so you see the Marvel logo with the flicking comic drawings, and it says Marvel Studios, whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I've seen this before, but it's not a superhero film. It's a
superhero horror film.
But I mean, it is a horror film, I think, with superheroes. So
that's right.
It barely fits into the superhero genre. They're now again branching out, taking a different path where they take a completely different film genre and insert their characters into that. Yes. So it's not a superhero film. It's a horror film. It just happens to have mutants in it in a haunted house with. And then there's elements of they're taking kids who haven't quite discovered their powers and seeing where that takes them and trying to control them. So again, I think that is another road marker on the way of going, well, now we're branching out. We're doing different genres with these characters, and it's sort of like they're running out of ideas, or they're running out of track with that whole
it's interesting
superhero shtick.
Two things as well with that. Mixing in the superhero motifs with horror is a precedent that's kind of happened before, because a lot of those earlier horror films sort of used the idea of cusping adulthood for teenagers.
I mean, if we want to talk about that, we're probably getting into Stephen King territory, which is our feature film this week. You Carrie, you have Drew Barrymore's Firestarter.
That's right.
There's all of those sort of Stephen King novels were essentially burgeoning mutant powers in a lot of ways. And I mean, then it makes sense then if you go, well, why not just actually call them mutants?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, developing bodies are changing. Hair's growing, powers are growing. It's all a rich tapestry. But it's also interesting to
Little
note...
Bunny noticed psychic powers in places there weren't psychic powers previously.
It's interesting that the only studio at the moment that's driving that change is Fox. So Fox is in charge of the X-Men license, and as a result, the X-Men can't appear in the Avengers films and all that. And they never will, because I don't think they want to give up that cash cow. But I think Fox has kind of recognized the merit in not trying to do what Marvel, and to a lesser extent DC, is doing. So Marvel in the sense of the Avengers stuff. And not trying to emulate that by just trying new things. I think they had great success with Deadpool.
Yeah.
They had massive success with Logan. And I think now they just feel like, well, we can't establish this crazy universe. They tried to do that with Fantastic Four and failed miserably. We need to do just new things with these characters.
But they put out a television show every single season that only really has a season and falls apart or isn't that good. So Inhumans, and there are so many of them every year, and they're all Marvel mutants, and it's all a way of retaining that license.
Yep.
But they're all characters you've never heard of or never seen. They're may have had some sort of comic book series, like a limited run. I'm not big into the actual sort of comic releases, so I wouldn't be able to tell you if there's like anthologies or anything like that, but they all seem to fall apart. And I get it. You're taking chances. You're trying to do a different method of storytelling through television. But I think Marvel does that. Marvel does that through Netflix. They've got their Daredevils and Luke Cages and all that sort of stuff. But I think Netflix gives them a lot more freedom to do what they want. All of Fox's stuff is network television or cable television because that's the nature of what Fox is as a corporation.
Yep.
And so it has that very broad appeal feel to a lot of the shows. They're trying to bring in as many people to that audience as possible.
They've had far less success with their TV outings as opposed to what they're doing in film. But that's fine.
I mean, that's all right.
I'm curious to see. I probably won't see the New Mutants because I'm not a horror person at all.
It looks like they do the bit that you just remember from The Frighteners, which is the wallpaper stretching as like a ghosty thing sort of pushes through it. So
how good is The Frighteners?
The Frighteners is fantastic. All right, so we'll get to Star Wars. Yeah. New Star Wars Last Jedi. I feel like I was one of the first people in Australia to have seen this trailer because I watch the NFL and I have an NFL Game Pass and watched it as it was broadcast on that CBS or I don't remember. Sure. I don't know who has the Monday night game. So
someone does.
I'm sure there are other people in Australia who have that Game Pass, but like it was a good sort of 45 minutes before anyone else sort of managed to watch that trailer on YouTube. So got a world exclusive. Pretty good looking trailer.
It is. It's nice. Look, I like Star Wars. I think most people probably like it. There's a lot of things I didn't like with Force Awakens.
Yeah, primarily that it is a New Hope clone.
It is, and not as good.
It just hits all the same sort of story moments, and you have carbon copies of characters. And the moment, again, you should not be listening to this podcast if you're at all scared of spoilers. Any film that we talk about will have spoilers. The moment where you realize that Han Solo's character is analogous with Obi-Wan, you realize that he's going to die. He's going to get struck down. And it's a good 20 minutes before he dies as well.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, all of these beats are the same. Here are the correlations between the characters. Here are the people who are going to die. Here are how they're going to win the fights. Yep. So it becomes a little bit
it does, but I think
predictable.
What the Force Awakens did was give us some really great new characters.
It did, yeah.
So Rey, Finn, Poe, Kylo, really solid characters to work with. They're all very clearly defined. So it's interesting to see this trailer where they take on there's depth, right? So there's an evolution of what they were shown, or what we were shown rather, in the Force Awakens.
Yeah,
which
is, I suppose, somewhat worrying. Again, you hope it doesn't hit the same beats as Empire. Having said that, there are shots of the AT-AT type walkers going along. There are training montage sequences a la Dagobah, only this time it's on some Irish island, rocky island, with Luke teaching Rey. So there are moments there where you feel as though they could be hitting the same beats, or they are bringing in elements from Empire Strikes Back to try and sort of tie in to be a second film. But then they go off and they show these other sort of really great moments that feel unique and feel earned. So there's the two, I think, most sort of powerful moments in the trailer. Kylo Ren flying a spaceship that he knows has his mother on it.
Well, it's implied by the trailer.
And he's just like, I have to destroy her to move forward.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of heart-wrenching because obviously Carrie Fisher passed away.
That's right,
late last year, and so this will probably be one of her last sort of film appearances, and so there's this moment here. It's like, a moment between mother and son, between sort of choosing to kill her or not. There's tension there. We know that she's dead. There's all these sort of interesting ramifications of that as a character choice. And we see a snippet of that. And then the last moment we see is of Rey and Kylo Ren going, I need someone to show me my place in this universe or in this world.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's an interesting dynamic between those two characters, because it's not it's not black and white. It's not, you are the bad guy, I'm the good guy, we're going to fight one another. It's like, we are the only two people who understand each other.
Yeah.
How is this going to work? And I feel as though those are the two moments that the trailer hinges around. The rest of them are Millennium Falcons flying through crystal caves. They're TIE fighters shooting beams. There's
new critters.
Finn fighting Phantasma, which really kind of should have happened in the last film.
It should have been established in the first film.
Yeah.
They wasted Phasma's character in that, whereas they could have really set up...
Can I call her Phantasma?
Phantasma, yeah.
But it's Phasma.
It's Phasma.
Yeah,
but let's call her Phantasma.
Sure.
Phantasma 4. If they'd established more of an antagonistic relationship between Finn and Phasma in the Force Awakens, the confrontation in the second one would probably have more impact. Having said that, I don't know what they're doing in terms of developing that relationship in The Last Jedi, so who knows? It could still happen.
To be perfectly fair, I don't really want to think about the trailer too much, and I don't want to break it apart too much, because it'll just spoil if you go in with preconceived notions of what the film is going to be, or you have these moments in your head, you kind of look out for them in the film, and you're always disappointed if they've been changed or not.
That's right,
I mean, up until we started recording this podcast, I actively avoided watching trailers just for the fact that having worked in the cinema as a projectionist for so long, you watch a lot of trailers and then you watch movies and they're never as good, or they ruin it. So I avoided trailers just to make the movie watching experience more enjoyable. So I really just really don't want to think about the Star Wars trailer. I'm going to go see the film. Pretty much everyone who was going to see the film would have seen it they didn't really need to put out a trailer. It's not going to attract any more people to see the film than there were before. So,
yeah, I mean, like, Lucasfilm could have just issued a press release and said, like, the day before release, saying, hey, guys, The Last Jedi's out tomorrow. Go see it. Yeah. And then that's it.
And everyone's like, yeah, we were going to anyway.
Just handwritten on a Post-it note and photocopied, and I think it'd be fine. I don't think that film needs promotion at all. But speaking of films that don't need promotion...
That's a fantastic segue.
It's not.
It's not. Sure. We should have done it going into the Stephen King thing from the New Mutants, because it was a perfect segue. Instead, I said we were going to do Star Wars at the end, and I ruined it for everyone.
Star Wars ruined it.
So this week's feature film was The Dark Tower.
Dark Tower, yes.
We'll get straight into it. The 2-minute recap.
God.
You don't have to do it. You did it last week.
I did last week. It's your turn.
We can alternate.
Yeah.
All right, so
look, let me get.
Let's give a bit more context though before we do the recap. There is a series of, I think, 8 Stephen King books called the Dark Tower series, beginning with a book called The Gunslinger, and then going off into.
Yep.
I couldn't name the other ones that I remember, but like they're all like Wolves of Kala, Songs of Susanna, The Mirror of Glassy Broken. I don't really remember. And it's a kind of an expansive universe. I personally have only ever read the first one.
I have not read.
I've read it twice.
Okay.
I have been told by people that you probably shouldn't start with the first one. The first one's a bit of a weird place to start. You should start with book 2 and then come back to the first one at some point. I've been also, like, again, not from any factual source, been told that it was originally written as a short story and his agent convinced him to expand it into a full book. Right. It doesn't feel like the basic synopsis of this book is that you have a gunslinger running across the desert chasing after the man in black. The man in black is some sort of figure of, he's maybe a sorcerer. He reanimates dead people that he kills along the way, and you have this gunslinger encountering these people along the way in this sort of post-apocalyptic Wild West. It's a desert. They go into a town and there's like honky-tonk guy playing like Hey Jude. There's prostitutes in like the brothel. It feels very sort of that stereotypical Old West. And eventually he meets up with his young boy called Jake, who is from a different world, and they chase down the man in black, and it's the confrontation at the end is very non-physical. It's all sort of talking about how, you know, reality isn't what you think and your mind isn't what you think. So it's a very weird sort of conceptually kind of book. There's not a lot that happens.
Okay.
This is the point of view that I came into watching The Dark Tower from, and I sat down and I watched this film. I'm like, this has nothing to do with anything that I know about The Dark Tower. Okay. So that's where I've come from. You've come from a place where you've never read the book, so
no, complete ignorance. The way that I found out that it was a book series was on the trailer. It said from the acclaimed novels by Stephen King. I'm like, okay, there's novels. Great.
Cool.
Aside from that, I know nothing about this world, this universe, this canon, whatever. Completely blank slate.
All right. So last week, I think you actually did this in 55 seconds.
I did, because it was easy.
It was it is easy when they have a pretty clear idea of what the story is.
Yep.
I will try and do this in 2 minutes.
I am timing it this time.
All right, so I'm just going to get cut off at 2 minutes, irrespective of... And having said that, my preamble's been about 5 minutes long, so... All right.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so a young boy in New York called Jake is having nightmares about a man who wears black, played by Matthew McConaughey, who is trying to destroy a dark tower and unleash monsters. His parents don't believe him. He thinks they're crazy. They try and send him off to a mental institution. It turns out that the people at the mental institution are actually monsters who wear skins for faces, other people's skin, and he runs away. They chase him. He finds a portal, goes into another realm, another reality called Midworld, I think. He meets up with Idris Elba, who is a gunslinger, carries guns around. They get into a bit of a scuffle where they fight some demons. They go see a seer and try and get back to Keystone Earth. Why it's called Keystone Earth, who knows? They get back there. They get tracked down by the Man in Black, and they try and trap him. And the Man in Black wants to imprison Jake in a chair because only the mind of a child can destroy the Dark Tower. The Dark Tower is a thing that was built to protect all realities from evil. By destroying the Black Tower, evil will enter all of realities. No one knows why the Man in Black wants this, but Jake has the shine, which means he has special super abilities, supernatural psychic powers, so only he can be locked in the dark chair. He and Idris Elba are supposed to have formed some sort of bond or relationship or familiar father-son relationship. It's never really explained. That it doesn't really go into that it's established, but they love each other, and Idris Elba has to then go fight Matthew McConaughey, and they have a big gun battle. And even though Matthew McConaughey is omnipotent, can catch bullets, can telekinetically manipulate objects, can just tell people to die and they will die. For some reason, he still gets shot by Idris Elba and dies, and that's the end of the film.
That was good.
Yeah,
that was
minute 45. That's not too bad.
Minute 45. That's really good. And completely accurate, I guess. Like, that sounded like the film I watched. Look, I'm going to take your word for it, because I struggled to understand a lot of this film.
It is a very, very dense universe that I imagine Stephen King builds up through books 2 to 8, which I did not read. And they've tried to cram it all into this hour and a half film. And
it's a really short film.
It is a short film. It's like they've just kept cutting it down. And in doing so, they introduce concepts like the shine. Like, this kid has the shine, and they just kind of say it in passing, and then they say it in passing again 10 minutes later, and then they say it in passing again 15 minutes later. And I'm like, what's the shine? And then they finally sit down with this psychic woman who says, the shine, it's psychic ability. And then I'm like, oh, all right. So, I mean, we kind of picked it up from context clues without you having to explain it. And it was a little bit strange, but you hit it with us 3 times and we finally got it. And then you do decide to explain it, and it's just like a one-sentence throwaway that it's your psychic abilities.
And it doesn't have any impetus. It doesn't have any impact either as a concept. It's like, okay, it's psychic abilities. That's great. So why are you at the center of everything? Aren't there other psychic people?
There
in this
are,
world?
apparently. And so later on, they have like a psychic wand, like e-meter, and they just like put it next to his face, and it goes ding, 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 ding. You're super psychic. And it's just like, oh, they didn't establish this, but they must have put it against other kids' faces, and it just goes ding, ding, ding. It's like, oh, you're medium psychic. So we do want to send off these lightning bolts. So they strap the kids to the chair, they turn on this machine, and it sends off this pulsing beam of energy to try and like shoot at the Dark Tower and destroy it. And normally they need like 20 kids in a circle to power this machine, but Jake is powerful enough to do it by himself.
It's not even explained why it's children.
No, I mean it is. The very in the credit, like the very first thing is like there is a Dark Tower that protects us all from darkness. This is just words, white words on a black screen. That fades away. It is said that a child's mind can destroy it. And then it's just like, oh wow, you've done all of that exposition with 2 lines at the start of the film.
It's not even good exposition.
And it's not. I mean, it is. It explains what it does. The job of explaining it. It's not a good reason for why the Dark Tower can be destroyed. Why can a child's mind destroy it and not some other person's mind?
I don't know. Maybe it's a thing with Stephen King and children.
He does have a thing with kids with latent psychic abilities, and I kind of feel as though there is some sort of connection between all of his stories, because it is called The Shining because the boy in that story has the shine, so like the shine is a term that he has used consistently, or at least between different of different bits of his intellectual property to describe that. So maybe there is a connection. Maybe the shine that the kid has in The Shining is the same shine that the kid has in the Dark Tower.
So Stephen King just created his own.
I think so. We did in the Dark Tower. They're going through this post-apocalyptic desert wasteland, and they come across the ruins of an amusement park, and Idris Elba's like, no one knows what these ancient ruins are for. He's not a pirate, but I can't do an Idris Elba accent. And the kid's like, yeah, it's an amusement park. And then you see these like this sign which has fallen over which says Pennywise, which is the clown's name from It. So there is these tenuous links between them all. It is possible that they do all exist in the same world, the same universe.
Yeah, which means that there's there's like a group of 4 kids who discover a dead body in a rural town somewhere
on the train tracks, and there's I think the only film Stephen King actually ever directed was a film called Maximum Overdrive, which is again about like a truck, like a semi-trailer trucky kind of thing that gets possessed and tries to kill people, which I think he then did again in what's the car one called? It's not Carrie, it's not Cujo, it's not what other possessed things. I think it's a one-word K sounding thing, but who knows?
The Kia.
Evil Car.
Evil Car.
Evil Car is exactly what it's called. Oh, that's probably the Movie Film Studios remake of whatever that film is. Evil Car is coming to cinemas.
We'll get to
that. So, I mean, just, I suppose, general overall impressions of the film is it is confusing. It is really not edited particularly well.
No.
It's an incredibly dense universe, which... I think probably would have been better served over the course of like a 10-episode miniseries or something like that, rather than trying to cram this all.
Yeah, it's bizarre
into the one film.
It's bizarre that they cram so much into a film that is so short. Because for a start, they could have made the film longer and not real. I mean, it's nice to have a film that's not 2.5 hours long, but it's the kind of film where they clearly wanted to jam it full of concepts and full of backstory and full of a much bigger world than what they show, but it doesn't give itself anywhere near the amount of time to make any of that feel authentic.
No.
And as well as that, at its core, the story is very simple. It's basically bad dude wants to open up a portal to evil that spreads throughout all the universes that exist in this film.
Exactly.
One of the universes is our own.
Yeah, it's Earth. How does he do that? He needs a kid with psychic powers. Our main protagonist is a kid with psychic powers.
Yeah.
He's trying to get the kid. We have a hero who's trying to protect the kid.
And that's it. Like, that's a very simple story, and that story's been done to death. Yet somehow this film made it incredibly confusing.
Yeah.
And it also made it so that there's no real reason to barrack for these characters at all.
No. So let's talk about the needlessly antagonistic stepdad.
Yeah.
And this film is full of daddy issues, but let's not really sort of get into so much of those. So the Jake, who's the main boy, we see a photo very early on of him with his dad, and he's looking at it longingly.
Yeah.
I think this might be an earthquake, and it shakes onto the ground. And then we go out into the kitchen, and the person who's there is not the dad from the photo; it's his stepdad, and his stepdad is a dick. Like his stepdad hates him.
Colossal.
Just sort of like, oh, it's a waste of money that we're spending money on you going to a psychiatrist. And then later on, he's just like, the mum yells at him, can't even you pretend like you like him? And the Jake's already walked in. He's just like, oh, right. So we all know that you hate me now. And it's just like, oh, if you don't go off with these people to the psychiatric institute who you think are monsters who are trying to get you, secretly they are actually monsters who are trying to get you, then I'm going to drag you kicking and screaming. It's like, you can't drag a kid off to a mental asylum.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, like I kind of thought at some stage it's going to be revealed that this character is such an asshole because he's really working for the bad guys.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen.
No.
He's secretly an assoll. And they're going to redeem him? No. Like Matthew McConaughey just walks into the room and says, stop breathing.
Yeah.
And the guy just drops to the floor dead.
Yeah.
And just like, what was the point of him being such an asshole if you're just going to kill him off anyway?
And the thing is as well, with Matthew McConaughey plays the Man in Black, legally distinct from the Men in Black, by the way.
And he's the original. Like he's before he got to team up with anyone. It's just like, I want to call myself Men in Black, but there's only one of you. I suppose it's going to have to be Man in Black for now.
So, for Matthew McConaughey, first of all, does a very, very good job with a very janky script. But for the duration of the film, up until the point where he kills the stepdad, he comes across as obviously the evil character, the antagonist, the will stop at nothing and will just crush everyone in his path. But then he comes and kills the guy that we all hate as well.
Exactly.
So you're kind of like, well done, Matthew McConaughey. That's the right move.
We all wanted this dick of a stepdad dead.
We wanted to get rid of him.
And you did him.
And you did him in. So, good job.
So, the other thing is, at the end of that sequence, he's sort of toying with the mother. Like, he has, a slew of magical powers, abilities. Unlike the other films where they just bring up random magical powers at random points to progress the story, it kind of feels as though this guy is omnipotent from the get-go, and it's a little bit consistent. He still does have a really broader range of magical powers.
Yeah.
But he tells, like, he goes, show me to the mother to show because Jake's not there, he wants to find out what Jake's been doing. And so there's a sequence where you see like this Jake ghosted in his bedroom drawing pictures and stuff like that.
An instant replay.
Instant replay of all the drawings that Jake has been doing. And then it kind of feels like at the end of that sequence, he should have just said, stop breathing to the mother and killed it. Killed the mother, and we would have been like, oh, there's a really powerful moment there. I didn't think you were going to kill the mum, but you did. And then it's just like, he doesn't kill her there. And it's like, oh, okay. I really feel like that scene could have been bookended by a more powerful sequence. Then we find out later that he did kill her there anyway, and it was off screen, and he burnt her body, so her body doesn't exist. And you're like, all right, so the thing that you didn't do in a scene that you could have done there to make it more powerful, turns out you did actually do off screen, and this death didn't feel traumatic or earned, or
no, it didn't. And I feel like the reason they did that is because Jake discovers the charred remains of his mother, which is really just a ash pile on the floor.
Yeah.
And I think the whole point of not showing it then was to give the audience the same kind of emotional resonance or the emotional reaction that Jake has, in that we didn't really know what happened and we're a little bit shocked about it as well. It doesn't work though.
It doesn't pay off.
It doesn't pay off at all. And it's unsatisfying. Like, that's the thing with this film. It's just unsatisfying from start to finish. It's not a horrendously bad film by any stretch. It seems to be competently made.
Slightly, there's weird bad editing. The story is dense and a little bit confusing, but ultimately kind of all right. The characters are played well. They're cast well. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's just that none of the moments that should pay off feel like they do pay off. None of the action sort of feels particularly good. There's a couple of bad CGI monsters in there. So it is such a middle of the road film.
It's incredibly middle.
We're not coming in going, this is such a horrible film. This is a bad film. Don't watch this film. No. It is just such an average film.
It is. It's perfectly average in every way.
Exactly.
It is the beige of the film world. It's that film that gets a 5 out of 10.
I think it did get 5.5 on IMDb, which is a little bit low for IMDb because they tend to be quite generous, but it kind of feels like that 5.5 to 6
It's
out
not
of 10
one of those
sort of film.
It's not one of those average films that gets 7.5 out of 10 because somehow that's an average
I'm not
score.
sure,
It is a genuine 4.5 to 5 out of 10. And it's the kind of film that you'll just forget. Yeah, I'm forgetting it right now.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly.
I can't remember half the characters' names.
What I'll do is I'll bury this at the back of my mind and forget what happened, and then in like 2 or 3 years I'll go and actually read the rest of the books and find out what was supposed to happen in them.
I'm curious. I kind of want to read them now. I feel like there's a much better world in the books than there is.
That's what you get a sense of a broad universe that has a complexity to it that doesn't really translate to screen. So I mean, it's piqued my interest at least in the books, but I feel as though I can't go and read them now, so close to having seen the film, because
then you'll just keep casting those characters in those.
I think
roles.
I always will. I mean, having said that, the casting's pretty good. I think Idris Elba's pretty good.
I think
in the lead role.
It's a crap script, but Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey and I guess all the other actors in this film do a decent job.
Yeah.
They do an okay job. Particularly Matthew McConaughey. I think he does a really good job of just coming across as evil.
Yes. So what I really disliked about that character, not the portrayal by the actor, but just so he comes in and he can catch bullets, he can tell people to stop breathing and they die, he can appear telepathically there when he's not actually really there to torment them. He can kinetically move things with his mind, he can just vocally suggest something to a person and they'll do it. I'm just like, okay, so he is all powerful. And his motivation is to release evil into the world. I wanted to know how he got powerful and why he wanted to release evil into the world. They do not explain that at all.
He's just a generic mustache-twirling villain.
Yes.
Right?
But if the generic mustache-twirling villain does not have superpowers, so there either needs to be a reason behind it or some sort of explanation as to how he got this powerful and the rest of the people in the world haven't. And there was none of that. And the moment where you go, are they going to do that? Like, Idris Elba's tried to fight him a couple of times and he's impervious to bullets. So I'm just like, he's going to have to think fast and do something special. And it turns out, instead of being impervious to bullets, it's just like, if I fire one bullet at him and then ricochet a second bullet off the wall to knock that first bullet, when Matthew McConaughey goes to catch that first bullet, it's going to be knocked to the side and it's going to hit him. It's like, so you still went with the defeat him with gunpowder.
And even then, going back to McConaughey's powers as well, So it's established that he can just tell people to die.
Exactly.
And yet, at
least 3 times he says, stop breathing to Idris Elba's dad, who is the president from the first season of 24, and he just dies. He says, stop breathing to Dick of a stepdad, and he just dies. And then later on, he tells people, just kill each other. And then tells everyone to forget that you saw these people kill each other. So, like, it's established that you can just say the words. I feel as though potentially in the book, there's got to be something in there where you go, the gunslinger's mental fortitude is such that he can't be influenced.
He's immune to the power of suggestion.
But it's not established in the film. So if Matthew McConaughey wants the gunslinger dead, just tell him to stop breathing. And that's all you need to do to solve that problem that you've got.
But they clearly had to set up some kind of climactic showdown between these two characters. And so I think the scriptwriters at some point sort of said, I'm hoping the audience just forgets that he has this power to just tell people to die instantly. So we can have this fight scene.
Yeah, I mean, they do like their fight scenes. And there's a couple of moments in the fight scenes which I think are really cool. And specifically, reloading of guns. So the first time he does it, he's got like a fistful of bullets. And he kind of just goes, click, 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 as he gives the chamber of the gun a big spin. And then just as it's spinning super fast, he just slides bullets in. I'm like, that's kind of awesome. Like, only someone who's practiced that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times and has sort of slightly supernatural abilities will be able to do that. And then later on, he's got them all on his belt loops. Like, belt loops are like as a bandolier sort of across his chest or his belt, and he kind of slides that, again, the chamber of the gun, and as it slides, all the bullets sort of fall in. It's like really cool reloading. I'm like, that's awesome. And then later on, he throws a bunch of bullets up in the air and then just kind of holds out his gun and they all sort of fall into... I'm just like, that's stupid. That's super stupid. You got me twice. You got me twice with 2 really cool reloading sequences and then once with one really stupid one. So
you know what that sort of dissatisfaction reminds me of? Have you ever seen Now You See Me, or the sequel?
I did see the first one,
So I saw the sequel.
The sequel apparently there's a whole sequence where they're like trying to steal something from a safe and they're throwing cards to one another.
That's what it reminds me of, right? Like, it's the kind of... I went in thinking, you can make a great film here out of people actually doing magic. Or like, you know, the sleight of hand stuff. That would be a fascinating film to watch, particularly if you tie it in with the whole... let's do a heist thing. But the stuff that they do in Now You See Me too is something that is not physically possible in the world we inhabit.
Even for people who have spent years and years perfecting their craft, you could not throw a card and catch.
You can't do it.
So the issue that I have with Now You See Me, isn't the twist at the end of Now You See Me is like magic is real anyway?
Oh, I don't know.
Like, it's like, oh, I'm Mark Ruffalo and I'm pretending to be the cop. Again, spoilers the whole time, but I'm actually part of a secret magic organization and you're all in and magic is real and let's use magic to rob banks. I don't know. It was such a horrible film. Let's not talk about it.
We should really do that one day. But before we do that, I think what we need to do with The Dark Tower... It feels like The Dark Tower feels like low-hanging fruit. And we here at Movie Film Studios...
We love our low-hanging fruit.
We love low-hanging fruit.
So, I mean, what is the atmosphere in the public eye that has made The Dark Tower a film now? What is it that we can learn from The Dark Tower to put into our own movie-making business? And it is just remaking a beloved book series, right? Because I think... Again, I don't really know what happens in the rest of them, but I think the only people who could possibly be satisfied by this film are people who know the story, know the world, and know the characters already.
Sure. Yeah. So there's that kind of like, oh, it's that character. It's that this one. Yeah.
There's this weird pretty girl who works for the bad guy who shows up, and she's just like, yeah, Matthew McConaughey's like, yeah, you choose a pretty face, and the world's easy. And then he burns her face later on, and that's pretty much all she does as a character. But she's in a lot of scenes, and I'm like, you have to be relevant somehow, but in a way that is not explained in this film. And I don't understand why you're here, but maybe people who have read the book are going, oh yeah, she's Gertrude the face burnt, and she's super important because at one I don't know.
Maybe she becomes the next Man in Black.
Yeah, Man in Black 2.
Maybe take
So, I mean, if we're going to do that and we're going to get those fans on board, then we need to remake a beloved book series. But the issue here is that at Movie Film Studios, we're very conscious of intellectual property theft. And
so I think what we need to do is write our own book series.
Write our own series. Now, I mean, this might be controversial. I reckon we go out and we find a guy called Stephen King. And this is Stephen King with a V instead of a PH. And maybe it's KYNG. It doesn't have to be. I reckon we can probably find... And he doesn't need to be an author. He just needs to have that name. And we sit him down, and maybe he writes children's books. Maybe he can knock like a 10-page book out every day. And We can say from beloved author Stephen King.
Yeah.
I mean, is he beloved though?
He's beloved by us.
We love his work. That's definitely.
Beloved.
So and whatever children's book like he turns out, we can then adapt that into whatever film series we want. And then it's just from beloved author Stephen King comes.
Yep. Okay, well, if we look at the oeuvre of the P.H. King...
I think as people will, or like from now on, there's going to be two Stephen Kings.
That's right.
And people are going to have to find a way of distinguishing them. It's like P.H. King or V King.
Or V King.
Yeah.
So P.H. King, I think children tend to be part of a lot of his stories. Would I be wrong?
Yes, I think
right
absolutely is.
So looking at, obviously, Stand By Me, the novella, It...
Yeah.
Very child-heavy. Dark Tower.
Carrie is coming of age. Sort of.
He was The Shining, wasn't he?
Shining was the little boy.
Little boy in that.
Green Mile, not so many kids in that.
No,
That's
but
fine.
I mean,
Shawshank Redemption, not so many kids.
What's his name?
Michael Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan's character is kind of childlike.
Yeah, sure.
I guess there's that sense of innocence and the journey.
Children of the Corn. It's right there in the title.
Children of the Corn. There's children everywhere. So I think that V King, clearly needs to do something with children.
I think what he, as an author, will push him in the direction of doing kids' books, but like post-apocalyptic, dystopian,
fairy tale,
semi-science fiction-y, kids' books. C Spot Ron, C Spot eaten by the marauders for food because there's not enough, it's not sustenance in this wasteland of a post-apocalyptic America.
Okay.
So I think that's where he's coming from. That's the direction we'll push him. So we've got to adapt those into a film series by beloved author Stephen King.
Okay. Beloved author, with a V. So
we never mention the V unless this is the world that General will have to distinguish. We never do.
No.
Because to us, he is Stephen King, the author.
This is true. I apologize, Mr. King. I did not mean to impugn your relevance and your magnificence. So, he writes a series of children's books set in a post-apocalyptic future.
Yeah.
Now, do all these books kind of exist in the same universe, or are they...
we'll get him to do a very Dark Tower-esque, books of series 1 through 8.
Okay.
He will definitely, we can't pigeonhole him like that. In between writing, he can do his own projects about scary clowns, about possessed cars, whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
About spooky mansions.
We're not gonna
with Jack Nicklaus and just whatever he feels.
Whatever he feels like, whatever comes to his talented mind.
Exactly.
He can do.
If he wants to write a spooky clown book, and we can adapt that very shortly, because also spooky clowns are on the mind as well. He can knock that out in a day. Yeah. It can just, it can call it,
So let's say what happened was some event in the one of the Stephen King novels. An event happens.
Yeah.
That splits the world into 2 dimensions.
You had better not mention Super
I am
Mario
not
Brothers
mentioning Super Mario. No. This is
completely different.
This is completely different. Yeah. Some kind of cataclysmic event.
Yep.
Definitely not a meteorite.
Definitely not. An asteroid, a meteor, a meteorite.
Some kind of building falls out of the sky. Not a tower.
Not a building falls out of the sky.
A building falls out of the sky. But not a tower. Maybe the opposite of a tower. Maybe like a single-story row of apartments.
Yep. So, it's just a bank of apartments. Sure.
Yep. It falls out of the sky. It lands on our Earth, which we will call Earth Prime.
Earth Prime, yep, sure.
Earth Alpha Prime, EAP for short.
Earth Alpha Prime, yep.
Yep. And it tears the world in 2.
Okay, so it splits it right down the middle.
Splits it right down the middle.
What about men and women? Like, it rips them apart.
Yeah.
So one world is all men and the other world is all women.
Yep.
And there's a tiny man-child, like a boy in one world and a girl in the other world.
Yep, and they're in the wrong world.
Yes. They're almost like they're on opposite sides of the dark apartment.
Oh, yeah.
Different floors, opposite sides of the corridor. I think it's probably going to be a corridor.
Corridor, yeah.
It's like level 23 of the dark apartment. On one side, 23A is the man's universe. On the other side, 23B is the woman's universe.
Yeah. Stephen King does like corridors. So
our Stephen King, PH King, V King loves corridors. PH King has definitely used corridors. He doesn't love corridors V King loves corridors.
V King uses corridors far beyond a metaphorical sense. Like they transcend everything. Like that's such a core part of his work that for us to ignore that and not put it in our adaptation, we're going to have fans up in arms if we don't put hallways and corridors into our film.
Yeah. So somehow the girl from 23B gets swapped with the boy from 23A, and you have a kid in each universe who is completely out of context. And they're just like, oh, a girl, we haven't seen a girl. And they're, oh, a boy, and we haven't seen a boy. And there's some sort of projectile-based hero in each universe. In one universe, it's probably an archer? Maybe?
Yep.
And in the other universe, there is also a different projector, a sling, like David and Goliath sort of sling sort of style. Yeah. And you know, I'm looking at the story. We don't have a clear antagonist.
No, and here. Let me pitch this to you then, Isaac of Movie Film Studios. The antagonist is the landlord of the apartment block that dropped to the earth and split it in twain.
Yeah, he's the guy who lives in the basement. He's constantly trying to get rent checks from people. He kind of exists in this in the corridor. He lives in the world between worlds, which is the corridor.
Because he lives in the basement where the fire-based furnaces are, he's always sooty.
So he's very black.
Very black.
Just like... Almost like Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins' chimney sweep. He's the chimney sweep.
He's the chimney sweep, yeah.
But he's not actually a chimney sweep. They just call him the sweeper.
The sweeper, yeah.
It's like, has the sweeper come to collect the rent check? Yeah. The sweeper's also good, gritty and dark. Yeah. And he has special powers like being able to turn on and off the water for our apartments.
Because the sweeper has ulterior motives, right? So he is obviously supernatural. And his whole thing is to sweep the world clean.
That's what he wants. He's sick of the dirt and the dust and the grime.
Yep.
And how does he do that? Is it reuniting the worlds, or is it keeping it divided, or how does obviously the dark apartment or the dark apartment has crashed into and split the world into two realities. I think they coexist on top of each other.
Yeah.
But one side cannot interact with the other side.
The apartment is like the nexus point, right? Like it appears in both universes, in the same place, and he is the sort of master and dominion over both universes.
Yeah.
And I think
does he want to keep it that way, and the kids want to reunite?
I think he does.
I think we're getting into some weird gender territories of sort of like the nuclear family of a man and a woman. Is it like, why? I mean, maybe there are people in each reality who are just like, we're quite happy existing in this single gender universe. There's no reason why, we can't have happy relationships and strong families, and we can just bring in gender politics in there, because that's a hot button topic as well. And Movie Film Studios is renowned for handling hot button topics with a very delicate hand,
grace and civility and all manner of charm. That's what we do.
That is exactly what we do.
I mean, we had Nazis in.
We did. We definitely had LeBron James being brainwashed to think he was a Nazi, which.
Anyway.
And again, as we said, very critically well received in Uzbekistan. Yeah. So,
but look, so let's just say that the sweeper's intent is to wipe the world clean. Let's just say he tried to do it by crash landing his apartment on the planet, but instead of having the desired effect of wiping it clean, it actually split it in half. Yeah. So now the two universes are trying to reunite.
So, I mean, I suppose you could go the whole, if he wants to wipe it clean and get rid of everyone, is like the best way of doing that is men and men are just going to fight and kill each other. Look, I'm not saying that these are our beliefs. These are definitely the sweeper's beliefs. He's very, gender role centric. Yeah. It's like men and men existing together will just fight and kill each other. Yep. And then women and women together will just be really bitchy, and I don't know what they'll do. Sure, gender roles.
Now, we don't subscribe to this. We're trying to create an evil character.
Like Dick Van Dyke, he's probably got even that Cockney accent. Get in the kitchen. Yeah. How are the men going to survive if there's no women around to clean up after them? Yada yada.
Yeah, okay, great. So he's an arsehole.
We have to establish that the antagonist is a horrible person. And being so steeped in these gender roles is how we do that.
Yep. So let's take our two lead kids now. So we've got boy in apartment 23A.
Yep.
And girl in 23B.
Yep.
So they would be, let's say, about 14 years
Yeah, sure, let's do that.
About the same age, and maybe they kind of look similar. Or do we want to make them like a love thing?
I was going to go, are they not like siblings or twins, and they share that bond, and that's how they're able to pass
across
between
universes.
Yeah.
That's right. Like that space film that talks about how love transcends.
Interstellar.
No, I meant our version, which was called
Extrasolar. Extrasolar.
Yeah.
It's just I don't want to get into it
anyway.
So all right, so we've got these kids, and again, it is just going to be the most confusing batshit array of they're just going to use terms as like, oh, you're so flangy. It's like, and it's like, oh, you've used the word flangy a whole bunch of times. I'm not sure what it means. Oh, later on it means that you really.
Or you can see the second universe.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's just say, these two kids have the ability to like they catch glimpses of the other universe, and they're kind of aware of each other as well.
Because they've both got the flange.
That's right, and they're and then the sweeper has this device. He's got a special broom with a little meter on the end of it, and when he points the broom at each of these kids,
the bristles of the broom bend back.
They start bending back.
And it's like, oh wow,
oh my gosh, the flange is so strong. He's got to have like a. Shall we give him like a southern drawl kind of accent?
I was actually thinking we go with a Dick Van Dyke horrible Cockney accent.
Like the flange is high with you. Bloody hell.
Call blimey. So that's that, and
each so the boy obviously has to live with his dad because the genders are split across universes.
Yeah,
and the girl lives with her mum. Now, both those parents assholes, or are they...
all parents are assholes.
All parents are assholes. Okay, yeah, great,
absolutely.
So, and it's as a result of the universes being split, I guess. All parents became assholes.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, cool. So now we need to use our shooter.
Yeah, our projectile, the projectionists.
Yeah.
I think we will even like be super on the nose. Call the guy with the sling David, and the girl with the bow and arrow. Artemis? Oh, Katniss will do. I was going Artemis from Greek mythology. And maybe
no, that's right.
Yeah, we're going to get legal. Yeah, legal's just called.
Can we combine them? Can we combine the names? So what?
Cartimus.
Yeah.
Artemis. Now let's go with sure.
Cartimus
and David.
Are I love how just Dave.
Hey, Dave. Hey, is it set?
Who
knows where it's set? It's set in an alternate reality. It's probably still New York.
All accents are there. Yeah,
exactly.
All accents are there. We could use generic European.
I can't do generic European unless I'm trying to do German.
Anyway, so...
And so the very final scene... Cartimus has fired her bow and arrow at the sweeper, but the sweeper can block all arrows with his sweeping broom. But David slings his in from the side, hits it, knocks it off course, and shoots him. And then how are we going to do the really cool reloading sequences of like we can do the Men in Tights, how he's got like 6 arrows at once. Yeah. I think we just do that straight up for the bow and arrow. He's like the slingy dude's got double slings.
Yeah, for the slingshot, what he could do, the pouch where the actual projectile sits in. If he just sort of whips that behind his back and it catches a projectile out of a basket that he's got, and just like, this doesn't really work in podcast because I'm miming the actions right now, but he reaches behind his back, flips a rock into the pouch and pulls it back, and just like that's it. It'd be the most amazing reload. It's something that you could practice, right?
It is absolutely
something that a trained...
I just kind of feel like our universe isn't confusing enough.
No, you're right. It's feeling very consistent and clear.
Yeah. What are like little elements? What are characters that we can just put in there for no reason and they just be there?
I reckon we need. You know, what we need one of those like prognosticating elderly people.
Oh yeah.
So talk about how
in the Dark Tower there was a homeless person who looked very much like Mark Ruffalo, who we called Mark Sleeping Ruffalo. So we need one of those guys who's the old crazy guy on the street who's just like yelling prophecies of what's happening, and he's the only one who truly understands. So we'll put him in there, and why not cast him as Mark Ruffalo? I really like. He has not
full-priced Mark Ruffalo.
He's been like, I think he's been a little bit on the outs. They haven't put him in the Captain America so he's probably up for it.
He's got a bit of downtime.
He does a bit of downtime.
But then we need the appropriate female version in the female universe. So who is the female equivalent to Mark Ruffalo?
Who is the female Mark Ruffalo? See, in my mind, I've just gone with Reese Witherspoon because I think they were in a film together, where he was dead and contacting her or something like that.
So it's Reese Witherspoon
and a Mark Ruffalo. Sure, that'll work. And they're both dressed up as homelessy people, and they kind of look very, very similar. And in some points, you just sort of like, was that Reese Witherspoon in the Mark Ruffalo universe?
I think what they've done in the makeup, is they've tried to match Mark Ruffalo to Reese Witherspoon, but then for Reese Witherspoon, they've tried to match her to Mark Ruffalo.
Right, and there's a point in the middle where they
meet, and they're sort of the same. So you get that sense of like, I don't know who I'm looking at there.
Exactly.
It's Reese Ruffalo, or Mark Witherspoon. So that they can just play some. They can cameo, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this homeless guy is not in there for very long.
Yeah.
So,
we need to put ourselves in there too as some sort of corpse, because as we established in the Goonies.
Yeah.
We have the power to time travel. With our bone.
I mean, I did say that our time travel technology fell through.
Oh, it did too.
No, that was just for bringing live people back. Bone time travel's fine. Technology still exists.
So we can go get our corpses.
We can, absolutely.
Okay, so what would they play?
There weren't that many.
There weren't that many
dead.
In this.
I mean, there were lots of the gunslingers killed people.
Well, in the Dark Tower, which we're not ripping off at all, it's implied that the evil beings in that wear skins.
Right, yeah. So they're like kind of bear-looking people, very furry all over their skin, and they remove other people's skins and wear their faces to make them look like real people. And occasionally, it'll sag, or there's seams at the back of their neck that you can sort of see where they've been joined on.
Yeah, and then they sort of fix themselves up.
So maybe we just do that so we don't have to play skeletons.
That's
this time
right.
around.
Yeah.
So just two people sitting in the background of a restaurant. Will be our skeletons, but dressed in skin, so you can't tell that they're not they're skeletons.
Yeah, that's fine. I like that. So. Yeah, and there'll be a sort of team of puppeteers sort of moving our skeletons around.
I mean, I think whatever we do, whenever we insert our cameos into the film, it just has to be so impractical. So we need 4 puppeteers just to have us play extras in the background of a restaurant. So
I would like the idea as well that a team of engineers has also rigged it so it's all motorized as well. So you still need that amount of puppeteers, but it's not just strings attached to skeletons. It's there's pneumatic stuff in there. And gears and all sorts of machinery.
They blinked.
Yeah.
There's no eyeballs behind the eyelids, but there was definitely blinking mechanics in there somewhere.
And I think as well, we should split ourselves up. You could stay in one universe and I'll stay in the other one. So that we can appear in both universes. Okay, that's fine. Now, is that confusing enough yet? Have we put in enough density yet?
I think so. I think as soon as
No, I think we need to hint at where the apartment has come from, because I think we need to imply that because the apartment crash lands to Earth, right? And it splits the Earth into 2 dimensions.
Yeah.
But where did that apartment come from?
No, I think we can't explain it.
No, we don't. We've got to hint at it.
I was actually do we hint at it? It's just where does the sweeper know all of his sweeping skills? We never tell. Why does he want to destroy the world? We just he's a character. It's just there.
Yeah.
We know he's a janitor or a landlord. He's therefore evil and therefore has superpowers like all landlords.
What about the backstory of our projectionists?
All right, so
is that what we're calling them?
Yes, we are. We are calling them the projectionists.
Okay.
We just do it in dream sequences like they did in the Dark Tower, and in both dream sequences. So Idris Elba's character is introduced in a dream sequence where his dad just gets killed. It's just the wrong place to introduce him as a character. I think we just do that again. It's just
and so the sweeper is responsible for the deaths or the backstories of these 2 projectionists as well, somehow. So let's say for the slingshotter, maybe
Dave
the slingshotter.
Dave.
Maybe maybe he was just in a slingshotting competition at some point and he lost to the sweeper.
Oh, right. I was saying, like, he fired his bullet at the target, and then the sweeper changed the target and swept his dad into where the target was, and he hit his dad in the face instead and just said, Dave, you just killed your own dad. I don't know why I'm doing a bogan Australian accent.
Dave, you just killed your dad.
Yeah. Oh no! I thought it was a target and I accidentally shot my dad. Does the same thing. For Cardamus.
So Cardamus is in a
archery competition. Exactly. Yeah.
And the sweeper sweeps her mum
instead of the target. Yeah. Or cuts a hole in the target and it's just the mum's face. And then the sweeper's like, "You just got a bullseye, or should I say, your mum's eye," and like the arrows out of the mum's eye.
I was thinking, like, if it was a bullseye in the female universe, wouldn't it be a cow's eye?
Oh, I don't know. Do these people kill their parents before the universes were split, or were the universes split hundreds of years ago?
If it's implied that the parents are all assholes as well, maybe it's just
exactly. And then Katniss is just like, "Fuck it, my mum was a bitch anyway. Like, I'm done." And then she learns to love again when she has to protect the little girl.
Should obviously our film resolves itself after an hour and a half as well, so there's no sequel.
Look, I reckon we aim for an hour and a half. It's too confusing, and we cut 30 minutes out of it, and it's just an hour. And we just do straight to TV, release, or we cut it up into like webisodes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what people like these days, right?
Exactly. People's attention spans are so short.
10-minute blocks.
I think we've got the gender politics in there. So even if it's bad, I think news outlets are going to pick it up as going, this is a horrible portrayal of like gender inequality, and these people don't understand the real issues. And just because we did it so poorly, people are going to go, oh, I've got to check it out. And because they're webisodes, we get hits and advertising views for all
so
of them.
Are we intentionally doing a poor job here? Are we going to sully the name of movie film studios by making a poor product?
No, I mean, I think people will go, there'll be a debate. It's like, did they deliberately do it poor to get it? Or are they smart enough? Or are they not smart enough? And then there'll be the conspiracy theorists going, these geniuses at the top knew exactly what they were doing. And then people are like, I don't think they did. I think they just did a really bad job. That's the balancing point where movie film studios sits. Where it goes, are they so smart that they're doing these things to make money? Really in clever ways and manipulating our feelings and beliefs, or are they just so stupid that they're just putting out really bad stuff?
Clearly, we know.
I mean, we know. I mean, this is the point of the podcast, is that you get an insight into the minds of the film executives who put these things out there, and no film executive ever deliberately makes a bad film.
No.
Films are bad on purpose because bad films make money, that's what we're here for. We're here to make money.
So we need to quickly cast this before we put it into production.
And also come up with a film title
and title for it as well.
I mean, the two kids, we will just pick out the best kids. No one knows who kid actors are anymore.
No.
We really only need to cast 3 roles, which are Dave, Cardamus, and the Sweeper.
Oh, and their kids' parents, I guess.
And who cares? Like, I think the parents in this one, in the Dark Tower, who looks like Natalie Dormer or Alicia Cuthbert. She turns out to be the blonde woman from the Vikings TV show.
Yep.
Sure, no one cares. Let's just pick up a History Channel, historical, whatever. We'll just pull out
generic
one of the people.
Blonde actress.
She's a pretty blonde person who has been in things.
Yep.
There are so many of them that we can do that. The real, like, you can't cast the Idris Elba or Matthew McConaughey role.
No.
They need to be big star.
Can we get Dick Van Dyke for the Sweeper?
I think so.
I think we just need to get him.
I absolutely think we. I think I was in contact with our time traveling actor people last week, and they said that although we couldn't get young Kate Winslet for this week, they're probably only a week or so away from perfecting the technology. Okay. So bringing Dick Van Dyke, a Mary Poppins era Dick Van Dyke, in to be the Sweeper, absolutely feasible for this film.
And we want him to keep the same accent as well.
I mean, he did it so flawlessly in Mary Poppins, I assumed it was his real accent.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
All right, so now we need to cast
Dick Van Dyke as the Sweeper.
So
now we need Dave and Cardamus.
Dave the Slinger. Who are you thinking for Dave the Slinger?
Who would be a good slinger?
I am really drawing a blank. I mean, I've got Dave because he's Dave. He's probably Australian.
Yeah. Can we get
Sam Worthington?
Yeah, we could. I was thinking Don Cheadle doing a bad Australian accent, because I mean he's great at doing he did an English accent in Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
And he was great at that.
Right, sure. So he pretty much did Dick Van Dyke's Cockney accent.
He did, yeah.
All right, so we're going with people who have played Cockneys. And sure, Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle, yeah.
Absolutely Don Cheadle as Dave.
As Dave.
The slinger. Are there any female actors who have done bad Cockney accents in films?
Kate Blanchett has done a Cockney accent.
Okay.
At some point. I'm
sure
she's doing one in Thor.
Is she?
Yeah, she's got a it's definitely British.
It's definitely British.
It's not Queen's English. It's definitely like, Thor, I'm going to take you out, and are you the god of again? And
hammers, and I don't like hammers. I'll crush your hammer with my hand because I've got big horns.
So Kate Blanchett,
I think as Cardamus is a really good casting.
A very bold casting.
Don Cheadle. Oh no, that's the other thing. I was maybe we try and cast Terrence Howard, and he'll ask for too much money, and then we'll just get Don Cheadle in.
Halfway through the film. So like half of the film is Terrence Howard, and then the other half is Don Cheadle, and no one says anything. Except
like the way that we film it as if it's like, we had one for half, one for the other, but like it doesn't make so much sense in editing, and we have to move some scenes around. So it actually just sort of is jumping between Terrence Howard and Don Cheadle the whole time.
Yep. Yes, love it.
Perfect. Nailed it. And the film is called?
Well, working title was The Dark Apartment.
Yeah.
But I think that's too close. I mean, is our apartment dark?
I don't think so. I think that's like the Dark Tower in this film is black.
Yeah.
But the strange thing about our tower is just looks like a regular apartment.
A regular apartment block.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit old.
Maybe they can attack the block.
Yeah.
Oh no, that
is an actual film.
Yeah. Right? What about the block is also
that's a TV show.
Yeah. Okay. Don't touch the bitch in apartment 23.
Yeah, I think that might be taken as well.
All right, okay. I mean, it's so difficult. A lot of these things have already.
I think that the market on apartment-based film names and TV shows has really been cornered.
Yeah,
and it's very annoying.
Maybe we can just call it Apart, because the two worlds are apart. Yeah. It's in an apartment.
Yeah.
People are playing partners.
So it's called Apart, and then brackets underneath meant.
No. We'll just call it Apart.
Apart? Okay.
Apart. I think it's actually a really good title for the film, to be honest. It has a couple of double meanings. But like, if we want to make it Apart in brackets meant. All right, cool. That's what we'll do it. Apart meant.
No, it's Apart brackets meant.
Yeah, I know, but how do you say that without
like
saying brackets? You have to say brackets.
You
have to say the brackets. And what type of brackets are they? Are they
go just the regular kind.
Regular kind? I thought square kind might give us like, because it's
bracket.
Square brackets.
But then that has to be part of the name. So it's Apart square bracket meant.
Yeah, okay. That's how it's pronounced. It's like Sir 7N. So you have to say the punctuation and numbers and stuff like that in the title.
Or okay.
All right, so it's Apart
square brackets meant.
Will be
starring young Dick Van Dyke. Don Cheadle and
Terrence Howard.
Kate Blanchett. Two random kid actors. Reese Witherspoon and
Mark Ruffalo. I forgot we cast them because they don't look like themselves. Yeah. They look like each other.
And
sort of.
Two random actors to play the parents of the kids.
Just the
most random.
Exactly.
Possible.
We'll trawl the Tudors or
some other
Downton
show.
Abbey or any of those historical EPs.
And us as.
Background extras, marionette puppet.
Not marionettes, but
pneumatic,
full-scale pneumatic mechanical puppets, one in each of the universes. So whichever one you want, you can be in. And we're wearing skins.
We are wearing skins.
But nothing else.
Yeah.
Just skeletons with skins over the top of them.
Yeah, latex, prosthetic, skin type masks that make us not look dead. Yep.
So, are we ready to green light?
All right. I mean, I'm on the fence. I'm not really sure if I'm going to green or red light this project. I think all we're going to have to do is our 3, 2, 1. We have the two switches. We can turn one on or the other one on.
What happens if it's a tie?
Oh, that's a good point. We don't.
This is the shareholders at this point. Then
I suppose we would have to go to the stakeholders and the investors,
which is us,
which is also us. Also, I suppose, how are we going to finance this film? Last week, Mercedes-Benz U-boats and Domino's paid for the film.
Well,
I think what we do is we actually build the apartment.
Yeah.
And then we get people in there paying rent.
Yeah.
And we use their rent to pay for the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we can probably even do a tie-in reality TV show called the apartment, apart square bracket meant where we get people to build the apartments. We don't pay them for their labor because they get to be on a reality TV show.
Yep.
And then when the people move in, they're like, oh, we've seen these apartments on TV. We'll overpay for those apartments, earn money that way. They're paying us rent, earn money that way.
And then we'll eventually sell that apartment as well. And because it's now a piece of film history, you know how much all those film props and crap go for? Like, we could sell it for millions.
It's money-making at its best. We don't even need to get established brands involved.
Now, I mean, does this help you in terms of the green lighting process?
I think so.
We now have a financial...
I absolutely think so.
All right, shall we have a look and get the switches going?
All right,
here we go. 3, 2, 1.
All right.
Oh, it's greenlit.
2 green lights. That is a greenlit project.
It is now in pre-production. Once we find a director.
Oh, also, we need to go out. I'm sure we can just type into like LinkedIn or something like that, Stephen King with a V. Because we haven't actually found or hired him yet.
Yeah, we've greenlit the writing process.
Yeah, so we'll get one of our scouts out to find V King.
Stephen
whoever he happens to be. Could be a woman. Who knows? Yeah. Steve E. King. I mean, I don't know what the... Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Fine. I'm happy with that. Great.
All right. So this has been another episode of Movie Film Studios. There are a few bits of housekeeping that we have to do at the end of this episode, which we haven't done before. We actually officially put up the first few episodes on iTunes and Podbean and a few other podcasting places. So it is actually now available for public consumption.
Yes.
And because of that, there's a few things that you as listeners can do for us. So follow us on Twitter.
Yes, we are at Movie Film Studio because Movie Film Studios is too many letters for Twitter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Movie Film Studio?
Studio, yep.
We'll get that second studio at one point, and we'll have two of them. And we'll be there. And then, do we have a website?
We will have a website and a domain name for it. Yeah, but we have a Facebook page.
Facebook page?
So just search for Movie Film Studios. We are on iTunes, as we said.
So one of the biggest things that you can do as listeners is review us on iTunes. Yeah. It really goes a long way to helping us get found when you search for things, for getting visibility. We are potentially doing a thing where if you do leave a review, we will read it out on the podcast. We will pick the best reviews, not necessarily 5-star reviews. If you don't feel as though we're not a 5-star podcast, then don't leave a 5.
Hate it, then that's fine.
Leave a 5-star review. We're definitely going to only read out 5-star. No, any of the good reviews. If you're funny, if you're witty in your review, we'll read it out. If you want even write it as a review for the film that we've done this week.
That would be fantastic.
If you want to write a review for the Apart Square Bracket Meant or Adventure Children, then absolutely, it'll probably even go on our movie posters.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're encouraging creatives as well. If you want to make movie posters for the films that we as Movie Film Studios come up with, then
holy crap,
absolutely, that would be phenomenal.
So good if we saw a poster for some of the films we've come up with so far.
Even like I was listening back to the first episode, Blackfish 2, the Barry Nibbles story.
Barry Nibbles story.
Also a fantastic Movie Film Studios.
And if you guys know any of the actors we've cast in these films as well, please feel free to pass on these ideas to them because we would love to get them made at some point. Actually, I mean, they're getting made, but...
They will get made, absolutely.
You know, we can really fast forward the process of getting them made if someone knows Kate Blanchett
Any industry contacts. Obviously, we have our own industry contacts.
Yeah, if you know an executive producer that looked at the set of Independence Day or some other film that Roland Emmerich directed, get in contact with them because we would love to get in touch with them. Anything that they did on those films is fine. If they just sort of pointed in the direction of the film to try and guide some other person who worked on it to the set, fine, we'll take them. We would love them because we need all our films to say from the executive producer of something.
Yeah. So the last piece of housekeeping is the theme song.
Yes, our little music intro and outro comes to us from an artist called, I can't actually pronounce it, but it's Proleter, Proleter, who does a lot of wonderful electro swing music. And that artist, I believe it's a guy. He's available on Bandcamp, on SoundCloud. So just have a look for him. So it's Proleter. The song that we're using is one called April Showers. And he's got a ton of stuff like that, all available for you to use.
And graciously allows you to, under a Creative Commons license, allows you to use it for... so long as you credit him. And again, we have, I think, put them at the front of the other episodes that we've released, but this is the first time we're actually sort of recording after releasing our so we'd obviously like to give a huge shout out and thanks to that.
Yeah, to that musician. So yeah, go to wherever good podcasts are given away for free and grab yourself or subscribe to Movie Film Studios. We are out there now.
So thanks for listening this week. I've been Isaac.
And I've been AJ.
Roll credits.